This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, JM Ryerson.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. Reminder, share this out. This is going to be a fun episode. I can already tell you, talking to Nico, he is awesome. He's got some interesting ideas and he's led an interesting life, and it's going to be a lot of fun to dive into. Nico Lagan is a Times Squared featured entrepreneur and men's coach who hosts the Nico Lagan Show podcast. He's been traveling the U.S. with his girlfriend and rescue dog for a year, advocating for traditional masculinity. Nico's journey includes overcoming addiction and a transformative life in the Canadian wilderness. He champions strong men, has written a book, and coaches male content creators to go viral. He's committed to fighting for masculinity no matter the challenges he faces. Brother, what's happening? How you doing, man?
That's a great intro. Good for you. I'm who you're talking about here? That's great, man. Thanks for the intro. I like it. I like it.
You've led an interesting life. You know, anytime you can throw the Canadian wilderness in there and we're talking about masculinity, this is going to go some interesting places.
You know, man, I should have put my my lumberjack shirt, my flannel red and black shirt. I could have sold the image of the typical Canadian, but you know, it's funny because when you say wilderness, it's not even a joke. Like I still own a property in Canada, and it's as Canadian as you can imagine. It's a log house on top of a mountain overlooking a valley, and it is 30-ish minute if you drive like I drive to the closest grocery store. And you know, we're talking about small, very small town. Like the house is 15 minutes outside of a 2,000 people place. So there's bears. The person that owned the house before me could feed the deers by hand. Like, they're not hunted there. Like, we hunt mooses, and you can hunt moose, bear, but the deers themselves are not hunted. There's turkeys, wild turkeys that go through the property. So it is exactly what you imagine, except I didn't live in an igloo. That's the only thing. That's the only difference.
Well, brother, you're talking to a kid from Montana. So when we're talking about moose, we're talking about bear, we're talking about hunting.
Yeah.
Look, brother, you're speaking my language. Now, when you talk masculinity, I mean, straight away, brother, I'm putting myself back when I was there's fly fishing or cruising around hunting. Like, I mean, it's pretty masculine, the area you're talking about. Let me ask you, why is this idea of masculinity and fighting for that, why is that so important to you, brother? What is the story? Why is this such a fire in your belly?
Well, there's multiple questions there that I'll have to answer in sections. The first part is as men, we're always looking for mentorship. We're always looking for people to mold ourselves after. This is anchored in our DNA. This is what we do. We always are looking to belong to a tribe. This always been like that. It always will be. And I would have never imagined that my father leaving when I was 14 years old and leaving my sister and my mother behind, that it would have such an impact. Like, I understand that it wasn't a good thing, obviously, but I never thought that it would become my purpose. This is what I do every day. This is what I talk about every day. And today's going to be no different. But I could have never imagined that he would have left such a hole to a point that the next 27 years would be dedicated unknowingly and knowingly to the pursuit of becoming a good man, and to a point that now that's what I do. This is what I do day in, day out. I'm really dedicated to this. It's just very interesting looking back, because I'm writing my second book right now, and I'm incorporating a lot of my past experience to explain my journey into discovering what a good man is. And it's amazing the amount of stuff that we forget. Very amazing, the type of stuff that we take for granted until we sit down and put it to paper. Very, very interesting. So a question like that is really this whole journey of masculinity started with the fact that I did not have a masculine figure in my life. That I was left with a single mother that had to take care of myself and my sister. And I didn't realize it at the time, but if you're putting a parent into a situation where they need to play both roles, they need to be the masculine energy as well as the feminine energy, guess what? It's like multitasking. You never get to do what you're supposed to be doing properly. You do both half-assed, and unfortunately, it reflects on the child itself. Me as being a boy, it reflected on me because there's, unlike what people think, there are gender roles. There are things that a father will is supposed to do compared to what a woman or a mother is supposed to do, and we were made that way, and doesn't take anything from the other. The fact that you need a strong male figure doesn't mean that you're not a good mother. It simply means that you can't do it alone, and that's a fact. Statistics everywhere will show it to you. Compare kids that come from a family that's a nucleus family compared to a family that's being raised by a single mother. They are in the negative with every single aspect, from how they perform in school, their emotional state, the fact that 90% of people that are homeless come from a broke down family that was raised by a single mother, and the statistics goes on and on and on and on. So we this is all information I came to I came to understand with research and going through it, but now this is all I do. This is all I can think about. And my new book is all about this. And hopefully, I'm writing this not only for fatherless men, but I'm writing it for single mothers. Because now, 33%, depending on the statistics on the research that you look at, it's 33% to 40% of young boys right now are raised without a biological father present.
Wow.
So that means that more than a third. So let's say that it's the lowest of the two numbers. So that means a third of boys today are raised without their father present. So it's not a small amount of people. This is a massive amount of boys that are going to end up like me. If they're not careful, they'll become just a statistic. And I'm lucky at the end of the day, if I look at the people that I grew up with that are still, that never really took over their life, where n- they 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 change. They're still addicted to a lot of the same substances that I was addicted back then. They're still alcoholics. They're still doing the same pattern as they used to do back then. They're just older. But it's incredible that once you take control over that aspect and you realize it for yourself, the importance of molding yourself after great men, your whole perspective on life changes, because it is a fact. No matter what, it is a fact. And I'm hoping that my new book can help fatherless men, but also explain to single mothers that they can't do it alone, but it doesn't take anything away from them either. By saying that you need a man in your life, and it doesn't need to be a partner, it could be a grandfather, a father, could be an uncle, a friend of the family, whatever it might be, could be a coach, a sports coach, could be martial arts coach. This is what I suggest. But at the end of the day, women can't do it alone, neither can fathers. We need to kind of bring back that nucleus family, or at least the two components that it takes in order to raise our boys properly.
Yeah, man, I have seen some of these studies and it is alarming. And I guess the challenge is because it's not like little Nico, you didn't do anything wrong. And
No.
so that starts this thing. Now, I was very blessed. I had my dad in my life for 44 years. I lost him a year and a half ago, and obviously that's a void. However, I had my grandfathers and
Beautiful.
really strong men in my life, and I am there for my boys,
Mhm.
trying to show them the way as well. Let me ask you, brother, because one of the things you talked about was really, I don't know if it's called the ideal man, or certainly that strong male influence. What are some of those attributes, brother, when you've done the research, when you're looking at it? Because again, there's fathers that are there, but it doesn't mean they're present. So I have to imagine there's really some attributes of this strong male figure that can really help, whether it's a martial art
Mhm.
teacher, whether it's a coach. What
Yeah.
are we looking for those folks that may be in a single mom situation or single parent situation? What are those males that we're looking for?
This is what my new book is all about. I call it the four virtues of a good man. And just before I go into it, there's something you said that to this day I still ponder it. Is it worse to not to be like me and having a father that just leaves, or is it worse to have a father that's not present,
Mm.
that's not mentally present, that is physically there, but is not giving their sons the attention that they need? And I've pondered that question. I still do today. I've been thinking about it for 20 years, and I don't know. I don't know what's worse. I don't think one is better than the other, but as you said, I think this is something that's extremely frequent nowadays, that one of the parent is not present. They could be there physically and maybe both, because we're so preoccupied by things that don't involve our kids or don't involve their loved ones, that we put everything aside, and we're just busy all the time. We just focus on the grind. We just do what we believe we need to do every day in order to survive. But yet we tend to forget what really matters. We don't slow down to a point where we're mindful of the people around us, of the people, of the type of life that we live. So this is, I still ponder it. I really, really don't know what the answer is. But to go back to your question, I first and foremost, I need to say that none of what I'm going to talk about today doesn't belong to me. Those are principles that have existed for thousands of years. If you go back to Marcus Aurelius, if you go back to Stoic principles, if you go back to the original voice of the Bible that we call Gnostic text, if you go back to the original Greeks, they had that pinned down. Those Everything I'm going to say now, I really just repackaged in a way that it makes sense to people today. But the principles have been around for thousands of years, and they will be around way after I'm dead. Those five principles, I call them courage, being a protector, being a provider, having temperance, and having faith. Courage is normally self-explanatory, right? It's not like courage can be something extreme, like saying a fireman, for example, that's ready to risk their lives in order to go save people, take people out of a burning building. That's a form of courage. And one thing that's worth mentioning is courage is not doesn't have a lack of fear. On the contrary, is doing what needs to get done, considering that fear is present. Because this is a big misunderstanding that people have. Courageous people are not scared. No, those are insane people. People that are never scared. Well, show me somebody that says that they're scareless. I'll show you a liar. And if they are indeed fearless, they have a psychological problem. Like, we have bigger issues that we're dealing with here. But
They're
being
actually missing
courageous,
part of the brain. That's the only way that happens. It doesn't.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. It is a massive psychological problem that needs to be explored by doctors. It is not normal, but for the average person, having fear is totally normal. And in certain situations, it is needed. You need the type of look at what happened. I've seen so many articles and videos of women being able to move a car because their kids were in danger. Something that they're not capable of doing normally, but they was so scared that the adrenaline made them superhuman. So there is a power in harvesting fear as long as you know how to use it. But being courageous is anything like standing up for yourself, taking a decision that you know is right, even though you're facing direct oppression, that people are not in agreement with you, but you know it to be true. These are forms of courage that people on a daily basis need to be able to do. And especially for a man, because you need to take, in order for you, if you break down what a good man is, he is a servant. He serves his family, he serves his community, he serves his loved ones. Men are disposable. Look throughout history, men have always been the first and the last line of defense. We're supposed to be held accountable to a higher standard where we are selfless, that we decide as a group to say our job is to take care of our family. And without courage, this is not possible. This is why the first virtue is being courageous. But again, it does not mean to be you taking a bullet for your family. Of course, it should be, but it can be as simple as doing the right thing. Like doing what needs to get done when it needs to get done is something that most people don't do anymore. We crumble under the pressure and we simply blame other people for our lack of accountability. And in order to be accountable, you need to first be courageous to say that I'm a fuck up. I'm not a nice person. And if my life sucks, guess what? It's my fucking fault.
I want to break this down really quick because there's
Yep.
so much in courage alone.
Yep.
And one of
Yeah.
the things you were talking about, I talk about this often. If you're 30 minutes present with your kids without the cell phone, I mean, really engage, whether that's your spouse, your kids. I'm talking cell phone, put away, TVs off, really engaged. That is so much more powerful than if you did 3 hours with the TV on, cell phones in hand. You're around them a tenth of the time. Like you're around them, not a tenth, but let's say it's a tenth of the time, and yet it's profoundly more important than being just physically there. But the other,
It's amazing the power that you have as a father. When I don't have kids yet, but if I look at my life and how it would have been different if somebody would have just been there to tell me, what you're doing there is not right. I don't want to listen. Smack me. I'm a guy. Through martial art, if there's one thing I've learned, I'm not made of jello. I'm not made of glass. I can take a punch. And unfortunately, I can be extremely hard headed. And sometimes the only way to get to a man is to smack him a bit, to just say, hey, my old German Shepherd was like that. Purebred, she was meant to do work. Sometimes she got so focused on something that all I needed to do is to smack her a bit, just like, I'm not saying beating her up, just like a smack on the side of the head and she just snaps back into reality. But this is how a lot of men are. We need physical consequences to our action to say, oh shit, maybe I'm supposed to do something different here.
well, you were talking about a pattern interrupt, which it's important, right? Like, hey,
Beautifully
I
said.
need you to hear me, brother. Like, I need you to hear what I'm saying. I'm not going to scream at you. I'm just giving you that pattern interrupt. And I know people look, my sister never touched her kids. I happen to be one that we did spank. Now, again, it wasn't take off the belt. It wasn't anything like that. It was literally, I call it a pattern interrupt. And that's what you're talking about.
100%.
But back to this courage idea, brother, because I think it takes practice. And I say this often, courage is like a muscle. It gets stronger the more you use it. So for instance, back to being present, having the courage, having the discipline, because I know that's a big part that you talk about as well. And discipline to me equals freedom. It's a really important word for me.
Oh, yes.
But if you have the courage and the discipline to put your phone down, to be as vulnerable as you're talking about, to say, look, I have the courage to be vulnerable as a man. This was something that took me a long time to learn, that being vulnerable is actually a strength. How would you go about telling men to be more vulnerable? Because I think that's where you can really show up as your authentic self. That's when you can really be the best version of you for your kids.
This to me fits into becoming a provider, because we can go in more detail, but when you become a provider, most people associate that with money, with providing, with being the provider of your house, which I agree a man should be. But it doesn't stop there. You're supposed to be capable of providing your children and your wife, as much as I hate that word, a safe space. There's one safe space that's possible to exist in this world, and it's at home. You need to provide an environment to your children where they're capable of becoming themselves, because if you're in a survival mode, you'll never grow. Survival mode is really detrimental, because all you're concentrating about is, how am I not going to die? How do I make it to my next paycheck? How do I pay my rent? How I put food on the table? So you need to be able to provide your kids and your family a situation, an environment where you're providing the physical wealth that they need in order to create that space. But at the same time, you need to be vulnerable with them. You need to be capable of understanding that they need you. They need to be seen. They need to see the true you in order to create that bond. Because, if I look back at my life, and like I was saying earlier, one of the things that when you're raised by a single parent, they're forced into a role where they're trying to flip-flop between the masculine and the feminine role. And one of the things that women do, and you can see it just by the type of education that they're now chasing, that now that women on the same playing field when it comes to men as to the career they want to choose, there's a good reason why more than 90% of engineers are men. because we like things. We're logical. We like things. We like to fix things. We see something, we're like, hey, how do we fix it? But if you look at a woman, there's a good reason why 86.6% of nurses are women. And now you're seeing more and more in just medical field as a whole. Medical education now is more than 70%, at least in Canada. It's more than 70% of people attending medical, any medical field that you want, are women now, and it's just going to continue to grow. Give it another 20, 30 years, chances are it's going to be on point with engineering, except it's going to be towards women, because it makes sense. Women are more in touch with their, one of the feminine thing that a woman has is to be in touch with her emotions, to embrace her emotion, to be run by her emotion. And a woman is supposed to teach their children that emotional connection. As a boy, your mother's the first woman you'll ever love. She's supposed to teach you emotional intelligence. She's supposed to show you to be kind, to be compassionate, to care for others, to put others before you. And yes, the father is responsible for showing vulnerability as well, but he's supposed to give the space to his wife, to his partner, to the mother, to be able to show that to your children. And it's only by creating that space that that female is capable of doing what she's supposed to be doing, by forming, by educating her kids on the emotional intelligence. Because if you look at me, having a parent that flip-flopped between both of them, not only did I look for a masculine man because I didn't have one, I also always had problems with intimacy. It's always something I've dealt with. To this day, I still deal with it. It is still a big problem that I have. I'm very conscious of it, and I'm trying to do better. Every day I'm trying to be better, but luckily my girlfriend understands that this is how it is. But this all stems back, not pointing any fingers, because I'm as responsible as my mother was. But if you look at the past and you take it for what it is, you step back and you just look at the psychology of things. My mother did not teach me emotional intelligence. I had to learn it by myself. And as a man that does not have a woman to teach her, my views of emotions are not the way they should be if I was taught by a woman from a young age to be more kind, to be more compassionate. Not saying that I'm not, but I had to learn this by myself instead of being taught at a young age. It just, I'm sure that if we compare you and I, you haven't been raised by two parents and me having been raised by one, you can see the lack throughout my life. You can see how I started further out than I should have. If I had those two, if I had a man like me to teach me when I was 14 years old, to take over, to just say, this is what we're going to do, to see the things in myself that I didn't know was there, I wouldn't be where I am today. Like, I see men that are so successful today because they had two parents, and they're very successful in their 20s because a lot of the lessons that I had to learn by myself were taught at a young age. They started with that. And it's incredible to see. I've met some 20-year-olds that are killing it. And I start asking questions. I start asking questions about their fathers, about their mothers. And I'm like, well, duh, that they're killing it. Look at the parents that they have. Their parents were so present. They did what they were supposed to do. It's just incredible when you look at the impact that good parents will have on their children. So being courageous is one thing. This is why it's the first one, is the foundation of everything. If you have courage, you can move forward with the rest. But without courage, if you're not a courageous man, you can never acquire the skills, acquire the virtues, the morality that you need in order to become better. And protector is my second one. Like, a man needs to protect his family. That's our role. We're bigger, we're faster, we're stronger, we take more risk, our bone density is higher, we're more aggressive by nature. It is our role to take care of our family physically. But at the same time, it goes even further than that, because if you look at how I developed discipline over the years, how I gained access to my mind was through mastering my body. In my 20s, when I started hitting the gym, when I started doing martial art, I started to realize that, oh shit, I'm a lot tougher than I thought. Holy shit, I'm seeing changes in the mirror. I just need to continue sticking to what I'm doing, to feed my body properly, to feed it like it was a machine, take care of it like most people take care of their cars today. Like, it's amazing to me to see people take great care of their cars, to turn around and to treat their body like a dumpster.
Mm.
And then they wonder why they're not doing great. They wonder why they feel like shit. They wonder why they're depressed. And I'm putting that in air quotes because I don't believe that men are ever depressed. I just think they lack purpose. But it's amazing how we've come we've become so over specialized in everything that we do, that we don't tend to see a lot of jack of all trades, to pride ourselves into the ability of stepping back and just seeing, okay, these are what's part of my life, and instead of seeing them as silos, to be able to make a connection in between every single one of them. Because I got a guy that I've met a few months ago. His name's called Nick Kumalatsos. I don't know if you've heard of the guy. Extremely big guy in the masculine movement, and one of the programs that he runs is with business guys, and he says it's amazing because the first thing that he does is put them in the gym, and within a couple of months of them being constant, going to the gym, touching martial arts, they're quitting their corporate jobs. They starting their own businesses. They take risks that they've never had the balls to take before, just because they're mastering their bodies. And by mastering your body, you start getting access to your mind. You start creating a pathway to access the power that your mind has to give. And especially if you treat it with the respect that it deserves, it's your mind starts operating the way it was supposed to operate, like the engine that it is.
Well, I mean, that's biology at play, right? When
Of
you're in the
course.
gym, we're pumping
Hmm.
hormones, the positive
Hmm.
ones,
Oh yeah.
endorphins, and we have dopamine, and
Hmm.
and you're also doing hard stuff. And when
Yep.
you do hard stuff, you are starting to feel accomplished. I mean, I think it's brilliant what he's doing, because it
Yeah.
is the first step, right? In order for
100%.
me to
Yep.
feel great, I have to
Mhm.
go work out. I want to go
100%.
back really fast to the provider thing, though, because again, I agree with you. Courage is the virtue that spans across
Yep.
everything. Without
Mhm.
courage, you can't effectively do being a protector, being a
You can't be
provider.
dependable. If your family doesn't, you can't be dependable. If you do not have courage, that means that chances are you're going to choke. In a real moment of action, in a real moment where you need to be a man, you're going to choke. If you're not courageous, you're going to choke. So how can you depend on somebody that might choke? You can't. You can't. That's why it's the number one, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But you said something about the safe space, and I
Yeah.
really want to touch on this, because I
I hate
see
that word.
more.
I hate that word. I absolutely hate that expression, but yeah.
Which one?
The safe space. I hate that I use it because I just don't know what else to call it, but yeah.
Well, but you said the home,
Yeah.
the environment where they can feel safe.
Mhm.
Now, what I want to talk about and what I see happen often, people take their home for granted. This is the one
Yeah.
place you have full control of,
Mhm.
the environment
Yep.
and what you allow in. And what I want to talk about is the fact that so often people will allow toxicity. They'll allow people that bring down this, again, safe space. I know you don't
Mhm.
like it, but we're going to use that term, because it's my brother, it's my mom, it's some
Yep.
family member.
Mhm.
They can come in. This is one of the most important ideas that my wife and I both got real clear on when we said, this is our home. We don't allow people that we don't want in, that is going to bring it down. Now, that was not the case for probably the first 10 years of our marriage. We were kind of like, yeah, everybody come on in, no big deal, we welcome all. And then you have
Yep.
all this shitty,
Yep.
toxic behavior in your
Mhm.
safe space. I don't think people realize how important this
No.
is for you,
No.
and especially your child. That is your one place where you can say, no, get the fuck out
Mhm.
of my house. You are not
100%.
allowed
Yep.
to mess this up. You
Mhm.
go and you can be outside. I'll meet you outside, but you don't bring it to the sanctity of my home. What are your thoughts on that, brother?
I couldn't agree with you more. It is, once you hit that front door, once you pass that front door, there's no such thing as a safe space. We don't live in a world of unicorns and fairies and everybody getting along. Life fucking sucks. It is a hard fucking place. And as Rocky said, if you let it, life will put you on your knees and it will keep you there indefinitely. If you choose that path, there's nothing, you won't survive this. And this is the reality of our world. Once you cross that door, shit's gonna happen, and shit that's out of your control because there's assholes everywhere. But you're absolutely right. The who you decide to enter the sanctity of your house is 100% on the parent. And that doesn't just apply on the people that you let in, but this is like this right there. How many parents do I see that don't want to deal with their kids? They just shove them on a PC, they just shove them on a tab, they give them their cell phone. They have no idea what they're looking at. Right there, that's a choice. That's 100% on you. That's 100% on you. Whatever you let in that house is 100% on you. And this goes from social media, from the TV, from whatever you want. But I think the hardest thing to regulate is, as you were touching on, is family. This is one thing. This is something that we take for that we believe is sacred. But at the end of the day, some of the most toxic people you have in your life are your family. Because, and the worst part is that we do not want to get rid of them because they're our family. Yet a toxic person is a toxic person no matter if they're blood related or not. Don't make that an excuse. It is the hardest thing you'll probably ever have to do, is to remove toxic components from your house. But what's the prime objective here? Is it to create that safe space for your kids and your wife and your family? Yes. Have the courage to do what needs to get done. If you decide to go see those family members in their environment, what's stopping you from telling your kids, like, listen, we're going to go see this. This is what's going to happen. And to make them aware of this, to make them realize that there's a reason why they're not coming here, because I don't like the way they are. I don't bring that negativity here. But outside of the house, we do not control people. What's going to happen is going to happen. And your kids need to be able to deal with this shit. Because this is what we're seeing today. We have a bunch of kids that's never been hurt, that's never been insulted, that we need to tiptoe around their feelings because they were raised by a bunch of fucking pussies. And guess what happens? They became pussies and they can't deal with the reality of the world. So they have to make sure that we protect our feelings. You know what? Your feeling, nobody gives a shit about your feelings. Except outside of you, nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares. We don't do it on purpose to go piss you off. But if your little feelings are hurt, that's on you, bro. That's not on me. And your kids need to know that too. They need to understand that this is a situation. They need to be able to deal with the consequences of living in a society where facts are more important than feelings. But you're absolutely right. Having control, you have control over who you let in your house. 100%. That's on you. In the same way as, I like to call it the inner circle, but you are the sum of the 5 people closest to you. Whoever you choose, you know the expression, if 4 of your best friends are millionaire, guess what? You'll be the 5th one. But at the same time, if 4 of your friends are fucking drunk idiots, guess what? You're a drunk idiot. This is a fact. Who you surround yourself with is who you are. There's no way for you to, you know what? I can't say that there's no way, because you can elevate yourself from that. I've done it, and I do it almost every 10 years. I completely reinvent who I am. But it is a conscious choice. You need to be aware of this. And most people are not self-aware. They don't understand those very simple principles. And you know, it sucks to tell your buddy from 20 years that you've known from since high school to say, you know what, bro, at this point, this is what I'm going after. And I can't spend my Sunday night getting drunk with you watching football. This is about the only time that I have that is outside of work, because I have a full-time job. This is about the only time that I have that I can really work on what I want to become. So I'd rather spend it doing this. Is it fun to say to your best friend this? Fuck no. But what matters? Are you trying to become the leader that your kids can look up to, that they can mold themselves after? Or you're too scared to hurt people's feelings and you're going to just live a mediocre life because you don't want to hurt the emotions of the people you love?
Yeah, the word alignment just is ringing in my ears as you're talking about it. It's like, look, man, respectfully, it doesn't make you a bad person. If you want to do that on your Sunday nights, that's cool.
Yep.
No judgment. It's
Nope.
just not for me any longer. We are no longer in alignment. I want to get to, you said the word temperance as one of the values. And what's fascinating, brother, because you mentioned martial arts, we've mentioned discipline, we've mentioned going to the gym. So we're talking, look, again, hormones are going, testosterone. However, having courage, being a man, and also you can still be kind. You can still treat people with utter respect. Talk to me about your thoughts on this, because some of your opinions, I know people aren't going to love to hear when you're like, fucking pussies raised them. Guess what?
Yeah.
Now we have more of that. But
Look at
there's a
what's going
huge,
on.
it's
You
a
think
huge part of what's,
you think the looters in Philadelphia that were rampaging through stores with zero consequences, you think they were raised properly? Of course not. Of course not. I would never do that. I would never do that. On the contrary, I would have intervened. But this is my point. This is why having virtues that become, and I don't know if people understand what virtues are. It's not a skill, it's not a trait. It is something that your whole morality is based upon. This is what defines you as a man. And being martial art, not only, see, there's a reason why it starts with courage and then it's protector. Because if you want to become a provider, if you want to become the best provider that you can ever be, you need to have a mindset that's aligned with it. You need to have control over your mind, both on how to make money, what are my natural skills that aligns with making more money, the understanding that, you know what, I might do a job for 20 years I don't fucking like, but this means I will make as much money as I can doing a job that I'm good at to make sure that I can provide for my children. But you need to first go through your body in order to get access to your mind. And might as well learn how to fight at the same time, because it is on you to protect your family. And unlike what most people see, that they look at MMA and they're like, oh, that's what fighting is. No, MMA is a sport. It's just a sport like any. There's no difference to me looking at MMA and looking at hockey players or football players. There's no difference. It's a sport, but the skills that they learn are applicable in everyday life. But the beautiful thing, what I love about martial art, and if I look at my past, martial art forged me as a man. This is where I started surrounding myself by good men, by surrounding myself by guys that were killers, but yet were some of the kindest people I have ever met. Those are the type of guys that will take a bullet for somebody that they don't know, because they know it to be true. They know it to be their job. And Dr. Peterson talks about this all the time, how you need to become a monster. And it's in you no matter what. No matter if you're a man, there's a part of yourself that is vicious, that is simply fucking dangerous. That will do very, very bad things if you let it. And if you look at the looters I was just talking about in Philadelphia, this is what this is. This is their testosterone, that uncontrolled testosterone that they are allowing to control their lives. You know, they say that masculinity is toxic. It's not masculinity that's toxic, it's the lack of masculinity that is toxic. When somebody is such a coward that they will not take ownership of their actions, this is what's toxic. If you have somebody like you and I that can go to from 0 to 100 in a fraction of a second, and that does not have the control over this, you're toxic. You are very dangerous. But this is not a masculine trait. To not be having control over your emotions is not masculine at all. On the contrary, it's a feminine trait. Look at it. Like, we like women that give up, that just let their emotions be. This is one thing that's associated with being a woman that most men find very attractive. But yet most men today live in feminine energy. They think that, not, oh, I need to express myself. Express yourself at a home in front of your family. But outside of that home, brother, you're supposed to be the rock your wife needs. A man is a woman's rock, while a woman is a man's weakness. He exposes who he is to his wife and his family. But outside of that, he's supposed to be stoic and have control over those emotions, because he is naturally dangerous. So martial art not only gives you the skill to become a protector, but as you build the confidence in yourself, knowing that you can defend yourself and your family, you automatically start realizing that I have control over this. This is something that I can easily control. And the reason being that there's always somebody better than you at that gym. And most gym that I know, if they see you become too cocky, become an asshole, start to bully new students when you're sparring, you know what they do? They send guys like me after you. They take a guy that fights and they're like, hey, bro, go see that guy, bring him down a couple of notches. Your ego's always going to get checked. If you're in a good martial art gym, there's always somebody better than you that will take it upon themselves to teach you a lesson to say, bro, okay, sure. You think you're cool against the new ones? Let me show you something. You're not that cool. And this translates in every single other portions of your life. You start realizing that one, you're not made out of glass. Two, man, I I can be depended on. I'm part of a team now. The guys can depend on me and I can depend on them. I'm surrounded by men that are ready to help me just become a better person. And what's amazing about martial art is that your job doesn't matter. Once you're on those mats, you could be the CEO of a massive company or you could be a janitor. It don't matter. People have so much respect for each other just because they have the balls to do what we do. And one of the things that's amazing, and I recommend this to any single mother out there that does not have a strong man in their lives, put your son in a gym. Put your son in a martial art gym. You don't know where to go? Contact me. Find me online. I know hundreds of gyms across the world. I'll happily put you in touch with one. But if you don't know where to find a good man, go to a martial art gym. There's always a man there that's ready to take your son under his wing. And the beauty of coaching, and it's not just martial art, but it applies in sports as well. A coach, a really good coach, will take a shared passion, let's say martial art, basketball, football, and teach you life lessons through what you're passionate about. And this is what a real coach does. They, I guarantee, Coach Carter, the movie, is the best
Mm-hmm.
example. That movie, man, it hits me in the heart every time I watch it because he says it at the end. I chose to take on this job to affect a very, very specific type of individual and give them what they needed to go forward in life. It had nothing to do with basketball. What he did had nothing to do with basketball, but kids are interested in basketball. Cool. I'll use basketball to make them men.
John Wooden is one of my favorite coaches, and they talk about this. It wasn't the 11 champion. I think it was 11 championships they won. You hear of these Hall of Famers. You don't hear them say, hey, by the way, I learned this about basketball from Coach Wooden. I've never heard
No,
him say it. They
no.
always say, this is the life lesson I learned from him.
Yep.
Brother, I can't believe how fast this has gone by. We are literally up on time. I could talk to you for hours, bro. We haven't even scratched the surface,
No.
but I want my audience to find you, brother. Obviously, congratulations on the first book and now working on the second one. For my audience listening, that's like, I absolutely feel what Nico's saying. I want to connect with him further online. Where is the best place for him to, brother?
One thing I would say is just before I answer that question, my first book, I had an audio book done by a phenomenal guy, phenomenal narrator, and I took it off of Amazon. I broke my contract with them so I could start giving it for free. So if you go to Nico Lagan, you go nicolagan.com and you go under publication, my first book the audio book is available for free just so that I can help people. And it's really targeted at 35 to 45-year-old men that are looking to transition from their corporate world to becoming more purposeful in life, really going after what the next chapter of their life is, right? If you want to find me, you can find me at Real Nico Lagan on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's Nico Lagan. I'm on Rumble. I'm on Twitter. I'm absolutely everywhere.
Awesome. Brother, you're fascinating. Like I said, I knew this was going to be a fun conversation. I love how you talked about virtues and what's so important to you and
Yeah.
sharing so personally. Again, it's a great form of strength in the vulnerability, saying, this is who I was. I'm
Mhm.
not a victim. This is what I'm trying to create, brother. So I just appreciate the way you showed up, man. And thanks for being here today. You're awesome.
Anytime, brother. I really appreciated you having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Guys, I don't know, male or female, listening to this, there's something to get out of it. He's going to provoke some feelings in you, good, bad, angry, all of it. And you know what? That's what we need to do to really help all of us win, share this with someone. Just have an open conversation about what Nico's talking about. I think it's so vitally important. So make sure to share this episode out. Share it on, you know what? He mentioned Instagram. That's where we're getting the biggest traction. Check us out at Let's Go Win 365 on Instagram, and let's continue to push this episode because I think it was really powerful. And until next time, remember, your mindset matters. I appreciate you all so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, JM Ryerson.